Hello everybody out there in YouTube land, and welcome to DC Fans United. So the people of France are in strong disagreement with Bill Maher, specifically over the issue of comic books. Now, if you're familiar with the medium of comics in France specifically, and in Europe in general, from what I understand is they tend to take longer to create the comics, but they also tend to be incredibly well drawn and are often released as graphic novels. So they do take a while to make, but they're often of extremely high quality. Unlike in America, where the quality is often very high, but there's definitely a pressure to get things out weekly or monthly or bi-weekly or whatever. In any case, my point being that in France, comic books are understood to be literature as well as a form of art. And if anybody knows about art, it would be the French. So they are actually having somewhat of a golden age in comic books over in France and in French-speaking countries. So I found a really good article. I'll include a link to it. It's from businesstimes.com, but it talks about how in France comic books are serious business, and the comic book industry in France is an established art form, and in many ways its best days are yet to come. So really this stands in complete contrast to what Bill Maher said recently when he said that comic books have no value. He said that they weren't literature. He said that comic book writers weren't good. Well, along with many fans in the United States, many people in France also disagree with Bill Maher. So there's a picture here. It's the children at the annual International Comics Festival in France. There are now more comic books published annually in France and Belgium than there ever have been in history. And the comic book industry in these two countries has reached 510 million euros in 2018. So that's a pretty substantial chunk of change. That's getting close to $1 billion there. So I think the European comic book market is often overlooked. Another thing that people in France are really hyped about is the anniversary of Batman. They certainly read American comics as well as French comics, and a comic book author named Jean-Luc Fromentel over in France said it's a golden age, and he runs a comic book imprint for the publisher Denel. And he goes on to say, there has never been so much talent, there has never been so many interesting books published. And there are now more comic books published annually in France and Belgium than ever before, and they have annual festivals, and the artistic director of the festival went on to say the market has risen a great deal since the 1990s. So yeah, they're talking about the market is around $1 billion US, and in terms of respect and recognition, comics are on their way up. In July, American artist Nick Drazo became the first graphic novel to be nominated for a Man Booker Prize, Britain's most prestigious literary award. So this was in Britain, and comic book was nominated for a prestigious literary award. So does Bill Maher know more about literature, or do the people of Great Britain know more about literature? Really makes you wonder. So their festival celebrates comic books from all around the world, including French and Belgium, as well as American and Japanese manga. And it sounds like a really cool festival. I'd really love to check it out someday. So they give out awards for comic books, and they celebrate the comic book medium. So I'll include the link in the description. Definitely check it out. If you're one of my viewers over in Europe, I'd really like to hear your comments on what you think about the comic book industry as a whole, and how is it doing in Europe. In America, we're definitely seeing a decline in overall sales numbers, but from everything I've been reading, it's booming in France. So maybe the comic book industry is starting to shift a little bit to a different part of the world. You know, that would maybe be an okay thing for comic book publishers to give artists the time they need to create really beautiful, high-quality content that's going to stand the test of time. It's like with Doomsday Clock, DC is actually giving Gary Frank the time he needs to draw the book. So we're getting some extremely good art. But imagine if they told him, you know, it's 12 issues, you need to get these out once a month or once every 2 weeks or something. We would have very low quality art. So I think it would maybe be a good idea for publishers to give artists more time to create really high-quality books that stand the test of time, like they're doing over there in France. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. And as always, thank you for watching and being a part of DC Fans United.
End of line.